On June 21, Hong Kong authorities requested additional information concerning the U.S. charges and evidence. The U.S. had been in communication with Hong Kong about these inquiries, and we were in the process of responding to the request when we learned that Hong Kong authorities had allowed the fugitive to leave Hong Kong. We are just not buying that this was a technical decision by a Hong Kong immigration official. This was a deliberate choice by the government to release a fugitive despite a valid arrest warrant, and that decision unquestionably has a negative impact on the U.S.-China relationship.
Jay Carney ripping into Hong Kong and China at the Daily Press briefing today as the U.S. ratchets up international pressure in the hunt for NSA leaker Edward Snowden. We'll have that and so much more right here, right now on the News Hub. Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Simon Constable. Joining us to discuss where the White House goes from here is Julia Zweig, who specializes in U.S. Latin America policy for the Council on Foreign Relations. She joins us now on the phone from Washington. Julia, thank you very much for joining us today.
Happy to be here, Simon. Thank you.
So Julia, we understand he might be considering Ecuador and that he's applied for asylum there. Why Ecuador? What's special about that country?
Well, of course, the government of Ecuador has been housing for the last year Julian Assange of WikiLeaks notoriety in its embassy in the UK, and has put itself forward as a country that could give potentially asylum to Snowden, is seen as ready to defy the United States on some major issues related to security. Prior to both of these events, had shut down a security platform for counter-narcotics work in Ecuador that the United States had operated there for about 10 years. There's some real distance between the two countries, and Ecuador is seizing on this as another opportunity to make a statement about its independence from Washington.
So what other countries might be suitable places for Snowden to apply?
Well, you mean in Latin America?
Yeah.
Look, I mean, Ecuador seems to be the only contender at the moment, but the other obvious one might be Venezuela, although you've seen in the last couple of days the name floated about, but not as a landing place. And frankly, the United States and Venezuela, since Hugo Chavez died, are in a very slow and delicate process of trying to reestablish some level of rapport. And I'm getting the feeling that the Secretary of State Kerry's visit with his counterpart a couple of weeks ago might have begun to set a better tone, and perhaps the Venezuelans don't want to provoke Washington so much at the moment. That's the only other country. Havana was on the list as a potential transit point, but I note that he didn't board, Snowden did not board the flight from Moscow that was to take him through Havana to then transit to another country, and I would be quite surprised if Cuba, for similar reasons of potential in bilateral diplomacy, would want to pick this fight with Washington at the moment.
So if Snowden does end up going to Ecuador, and you're saying that they might be quite receptive to him, what levers does the U.S. have to push and pull to try and, if you like, get him back?
Well, the foreign minister, the Ecuadorian foreign minister, to be fair, has said that they would responsibly consider the application. So it's not clear that they will grant, that Ecuador will grant the application. Ecuador's economy is very dependent on the United States. 43% of its foreign trade is with the United States under a trade agreement, a trade deal that some legislation, in fact, that the U.S. Congress has passed and reauthorized about every 6 months for the last 10 years or so. Ecuador, I think, would probably risk that reauthorization were it to grant Snowden asylum. That's probably topic A on the list of levers that the United States has.
Okay, well, we shall see soon enough. Thank you very much, Julia Zweig of the Council on Foreign Relations. We appreciate your time.